Thank
Okay.
you, guys.
Okay, good morning. You're being recorded. Of course, it'll be taken away. But this morning, I'm meeting with Dr. Is it Sharon? Sharon.
Dr. Shon.
Shon Shree Lewis,
Yes, sir.
author of children's books. And I'm meeting with a librarian from Philadelphia and director. Could you give us your name and introduce yourself, please?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Richard E Ashby Jr., and I'm a library director here in Philadelphia in a community called Sharon Hill. I'm the past president of the New York State Black Librarians Caucus. I'm the past president of the Black Caucus of the American Library Association. I'm the founder and vice president of the Pennsylvania Black Librarians Caucus. I'm the CEO and founder of LiteracyNation, where our motto is with literacy and justice for all.
All right.
Awesome.
Now, Dr. Lewis, you've written an outstanding book that I've read, Coco's Meeting the Dentist.
Yes,
And
sir.
I understand that this book has a great amount of controversy around it. In fact,
Yes.
as the NAACP president here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, you filed a complaint to our branch around the Wauwatosa Library. Some librarians or their staff did not accept Coco's book.
That's right.
Author, could you tell us why?
Yes. So the story, basically, the issue started last year. This is the book, in case people don't know how it looks. This issue started last year. I do write adult books too, and that's primarily what I've written. And they accepted those books like 3 years ago, and I was dealing with a different librarian. I did not know that there were any diversity there. So I didn't think I would have issues coming later, 3 years later, with my new African-American children's book. And so when I brought the book in May of 2021, I was instructed to go to a different department, the children's department of Wauwatosa Library. And there was a Caucasian librarian there, lady librarian. She seemed like she was agitated with me bringing my book, really cold. So I was dealing with some racial microaggression. But nevertheless, my husband was with me as well. I said, hey, I was referred to you to bring this book. My adult books are already here in your other section. She's like, okay. And then she's kind of looking at the book and she's like, okay. Yeah, we'll get back to you, later. So to my surprise, I get an email the next day and she was like, thank you for submitting your book. I'm sorry, we're not going to accept it. There was no explanation to why. And so I was a little confused, but I just kind of left it as it was. And I decided to take it to a different library in the suburbs of Milwaukee, and they accepted it, I want to say within the same month or a few weeks later. And just basically me showing them the book, the librarian looked at it while I was standing there, very optimistic. She really loved the storyline, the pictures. I got accepted at that different library, like with no hesitation. And this was by a Caucasian librarian as well. And so after a few months of just kind of getting my book out there, my husband actually was the one that said, I think you should question why Wauwatosa didn't accept your book, because he knows I'm a paralegal as well. So I'm like, okay, yeah, let me do that. So I emailed the same librarian and I said, could you please tell me what the issue was, why you didn't accept Coco's Meeting the Dentist? And she's like, well, I think there's some editing concerns. And then later on, when I filed a complaint with the director and submitted more editions of Coco's book, including a revision of Coco's Meeting the Dentist, a few weeks after that, going into the end of the year, they rejected it again by emails. So their protocol is to take it to the library board. And so prior to me doing that, I raised this issue with the EEOC. The EEOC investigated it. And when they investigated, the city of Wauwatosa attorney got involved, and she pretty much spoke for them. And they basically said subject matter was an issue. So now we're talking about subject matter, which really made this a racist issue for me, and tone. So the subject matter is African-American girl who's afraid to go to the dentist. I also have faith-based content in here of her praying. And so I amended my complaint with the EEOC. We're talking, this is November all the way through March, November of 2021, all the way through March of this year. And I said, not only do I think the subject matter is alarming for you to put this in a complaint, Wauwatosa Library, but also the tone was very racist to me. And so after the EEOC reviewed it, not because they didn't think I was wrong, their argument to me was it lacks jurisdiction, take it to a federal or state court. So in April of this year, I took it to the board first, the library board. My husband and I attended April of 2021, Wauwatosa Library. To my surprise, there were no African-American board members. So I was respectful and polite. They said, hi, Dr. Lewis, we knew you were coming. Did you want to do a public comment? I said, absolutely. I said, I don't want to be in litigation with you guys. Here's my books. I said, I have even a couple of more that I would like you to take on the spot. Here's the submission, the resubmission form, and let me know what you think. And they were being hesitant then. So my husband and I spoke separately, and we said, we're concerned about your book selection process, your policy, and we're also concerned that you don't have diversity here. There's no African-American librarians or brarians, I should say, to look at these books, or board members. Nevertheless, we left the books there, got rejected again by, I want to say June of this year. So at this point, I have attorneys involved who sent the demand letter. So it got on, different news stations, newspapers. The Milwaukee Journal just covered it this week. So it will be in the Journal Sentinel. It's digitally available now, but they're going to have a print copy, I believe, next week. So just to sum this up, I'm still in litigation, and I am, focusing on trying to negotiate with them. If they're willing to take the book after I've done some upgrades, just to be sure that this is not a racial issue, which I believe it is. If it's rejected after I have this peer reviewed again, then this, I feel like, needs to go to court. And so I wanted the NAACP and Mr. Richard involved. And I wanted to thank Mr. Richard, who saw my story, for reaching out to me as an African-American librarian director and saying, you know what, send your book to me. Matter of fact, send all your Coco books. And he has it in his library, and he supports Black authors. And I want to encourage people who are going through this issue with non-diverse librarians to stand up, because there's some anti-discrimination going on with this library. I mean, not anti, but discrimination. It's institutionalized. They're going to try to act like there's editing issues. They're going to try to act like, no, it doesn't meet up to par. But what some of the media did not cover, and then I'm done talking, is when I raised this issue last year in May, when I first got the rejection, they changed their policy. Wauwatosa Library changed their policy for book selection process. How do I know that? Because when my attorneys start doing discovery, that's a legal term where they start investigating and pulling emails and all that, they saw the timeline of when they changed their policy to make it even harder to get your books in their library. So I raised the issue in May. They changed their policy in July of last year. And so this needs to be, the community needs to be aware. I'm not just supporting Black authors, I'm supporting Chinese, Latino, whatever race, but this is specifically against Black authors because there's no diversity in this library. And I just thought the community should know and to support Black authors. So thank you for this.
Thank you for that wonderful, all that, I would say, expert presentation. But I want to move to Mr. Richard E. Is it Ashby?
Yes, sir.
And I want him to weigh in on some of the things you've already said, but I also want him to use his many credentials and expertise to bring to light some of the things we need to know about this issue with Coco's book.
Okay, first let's just start off with some history. We know for African-American authors, especially independent authors, self-published authors, for you to get your book into the library, it's just like voting in Mississippi in 1854. It just ain't gonna happen, folks.
Wow.
And what you said was very, very true, sister. So what happens is that when you take your book to the library, and the way they get around this, they say, well, you know what, we have local authors. We're gonna put local authors into the library, and so they'll accept a local author. What keeps books out of the library is that document they called collection and development and management policy. So what happened was you took your little brown self down there with your book, you questioned them, they saw a loophole in their policy, they circled the wagons, and then they changed the policy to exclude you. And that's what they did. So what happened? So that's what most libraries have, this collection and development policy. So when they took your book in, they should have given you a policy in the perfect world. They should have given you a policy, and then they should have looked at their criteria for accepting a book and accept or reject your book, which is there. They can do that, and maybe not be right, but they can do that. And so you raise an excellent point. There's no diversity in the library. I don't know what the demographics of that particular community is, but if you're frequenting that library, then you're there. Then there should be some diversity in that library. What I've done over the last 2 years is I have put over 700 Black and brown authors' books into the library system. When I realized that my superpower as a Black man, as a Black library director, and I write the policy, I write the collection and development policy for the libraries that I attend and that I work at. And so my collection and development policy we put the books in. And so not only it's a slippery slope. I can take your book and say, you know what, yes, I got your book and I put it in my library. That I didn't say I'm going to catalog your book. I just said I was going to put it in the library. I could stick a sticker on that book and set it in the corner, and it's in the library. But what we want is we want those books cataloged into the library system, and you forever registered as an author in that library. And they refuse to do that. What I would do, what I'm suggesting you do, is don't give up the fight. Find this policy, find that original policy that they changed, and have your lawyers find out why did they change that policy. And then you want to know, who is this person, this woman that you're talking to? Is she an officer of the library? Is she a director? Is she the assistant director? Because that's who should be telling you about your book. Or is she the curator for the collections? Does she do the collection and development? Or is she just another Karen who's the gatekeeper and saying, no, you can't have this book? And naturally, the library director is going to side with her. You're in a no-win situation. Naturally, he's going to side with her. And naturally, that the solicitor is going to side with the library. So so you're in the fight. You're in the fight. And like I said, my organization, Literacy Nation, we're behind you. I'm the president of the Black Caucus in Pennsylvania. We're going to put your book into the library. We're behind you. I'm having some conversations with some independent authors and we're looking to come up to that. My wife said last night, who are you, the Al Sharpton of books? We're looking to come up to your area and do a book show with independent authors. And these independent authors are writing fiction, nonfiction, all genres of books. They're great books. And the reason, and you said they talked about tone in your book. That's the reason people are self-publishing. You can't have someone read your book who don't understand the jargon, the lingo, the flavor of the Black culture.
Of the Black culture, thank you. The
I have a-
linguistic.
And I have a young lady who wrote a book called Everything Black, ERRTHYTHING, Everything Black.
Wow.
And she's a poet, and she's powerful. When I sent the book to my cataloger, who was white, she cataloged the book as Everything Black. I said, no, it's
We always want to
Everything
correct
Black.
our English.
That's not a word. Everything. I said it is my community. Now go
I
back and
know that's right.
change it back to Everything Black. And that's what happens when in this field, you have catalogers who are now censoring the language in the book and censoring the tone of the book. And when actually these books are windows and mirrors, these children should be able to see themselves in these books and open up new worlds to them. So you have a dogfight on your hand.
I do.
One of the things that I learned is that when you're talking to the media, you got to make it short, because they're going to cut it up. They're going to cut it up and pull what they want to pull out of it, and maybe
true.
change the whole tone of what you're saying. So when you're doing these interviews with the media, keep it short, keep it precise to what you want to say. And that way they can't splice it up and turn it up to take it up. And I learned this from Reverend Al Sharpton. I'm from New York. And back in the day, Al Sharpton, they used to make Reverend Al Sharpton look like a complete buffoon on TV. Just a complete buffoon. And I met him. And when I met this brother, he is one of the most intelligent, articulate men you can find. But the way they portray him on television is absolutely, it's a crime. And I had to say to him, I said, you know, Doc, I said, you know, Pastor Al, you know, I have to owe you an apology. Because when they said you were coming here, I was like, I ain't going to see him. I'm not going to see that clown. And somebody said, listen, Black man, you need to go see the brother, hear what he have to say. And when I went and I saw him and I heard him, I was like so embarrassed that I was, the buffoonery that they made this man look like, just by his cutting up. So I say to you, be careful when you talk to the press. They will cut up what you say. Now, I did an interview last week about independent authors for the news, and you saw it. I kept it short and precise, and when they did the story, it had to be my message got out. So for your message to get out, keep it short and precise. And I just hope that don't give up the fight, because the way I heard about this was someone put your story on the listserv of the Black Caucus of the American Library Association. So
Wow.
someone shared your story and shared your link, and it went out across America and the Caribbean and Africa, and everyone saw it. But now here's the kicker: thousands of people saw it, but I'm the only one that contacted you.
And I appreciate that.
People are scared for their jobs, you know. People are like, oh man, that sister, and they put out, oh man, that sister's really going through it. Well, why don't you call her? And man, my library's not gonna let me do that. You know, I can't get into that dog fight. Well, folks, I'm only here because this is what God put me here. So no man can close any doors that God opened, and nobody can open any doors that God shut. And so I said, you know what? I said to my wife, you know what? I'm gonna call this sister, and we're gonna throw some weight behind her, and these folks that's talking about the book can't come in and the book can't do this and the book can't do that. They have the exact same degrees as I have, you know, and so we're going to stand behind you firmly on this issue. You may not.
I appreciate it.
We might not win this fight, because we don't win every fight outright, but in the backdrop, they may have to take a second look at themselves. So you might be the Rosa Parks of independent authors. I don't know, but put this fight out, get this fight out in the news, get this out in public that this is what's happening. And I'll tell you, probably the American Library Association is going to weigh in on this as bigger it gets, and then other people are going to weigh in on this the more it grows. Because
I used to be a member of the Library Association. I'm going to rejoin because I used to be a member.
Rejoin, and then rejoin the Black Caucus of the American Library Association also. You join these organizations, you align yourself with these organizations, and just keep up the fight, and just align yourself with the right people, align yourself with the American Library Association, with the Black Caucus. There is no Black Caucus up in Wisconsin for Black librarians. There may be 5 Black librarians up in Wisconsin. So there's about 85,000 librarians in this country. 500 of them are Black men, and about 30 to 40 of us are Black library directors. So I'm blessed to be in this position. But
Absolutely.
I'm blessed, but I'm not scared. And
no, that's right. Can't be.
Let me weigh in. I want to go back to EEOC. And you said they said your book lacks jurisdiction. Go to
They did. Actually, the case itself, because I filed a public accommodation. That was my complaint. That it was a public accommodation issue that was racist. And so even though they said, you know, we're dismissing the case, my attorney appealed it, and that's the appeal that's pending. And he found a case law, and in the legal world, they find a case that already won, you know, something similar to my case. And his argument was, this is a public accommodation issue. This is a federal state issue. And this is I guess you could say, an equal rights issue.
Yes.
For public accommodation, a statute, I can't remember the statute.
Oh, that's okay.
But he was saying that in his argument, that if a person, authors are considered patrons as well. So in his argument, he was saying, if an author doesn't have the freedom to donate their book to a library, then that's a public accommodation issue. It's not just about the patrons, it's also about the authors that are patrons. And okay, so I really like that.
Now, what particular branch of EEOC was it? Was it in Milwaukee? Was it the state? Do you know where?
It was Milwaukee, one downtown.
Okay, Milwaukee downtown. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they focus more on employment discrimination. So they were kind of even saying it's more of a civil rights issue. That's why we think this is a state or federal issue.
I would suggest you also look at the American Library Association policies on diversity and collection. Look at the American Library Association collection and development policies and the guidelines that they set for libraries.
That's a good idea. And I think my attorney did start, you know, researching that as well as part of their argument, because I kind of remember one of my attorneys telling me to look up they call it ALA, American Library Association policies. And he told me to send him a clip of part of what you were saying, Mr. Richard. So yeah, in case this goes to court, that would be one of the arguments, you know, but we're trying to avoid that. But if I say this is going to federal court, then that's, I think, is going to make a change. I think they're going to probably want to negotiate. So.
Well, I will make every effort to make sure that this particular interview is on the public media. I can guarantee you. And I will be talking to both of you again. But Mr. Richard Ashby Jr., I need you to send me your information, or Dr. Lewis, give me his information so we can begin to tie things together. All right?
Absolutely. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, both of you.
And don't forget to put this in y'all paper.
That's what I'm saying too. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All
yes,
right.
sir.
It'll be in our weekly. It will be in our weekly media. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you both, and have a great
weekend. Thank you all for your
weekend.
support.
And enjoy the Labor Day holiday. Okay.
Yes, everybody be safe. God bless you.
Be safe.
God bless
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.